Shalom, shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to give all praise, honor, and the glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the elders and apostles and bishops, a great millstone that rule well. And peace and blessings be multiplied on all you brethren teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect, 144,000. I'm the brother Damar Gebar, here with another lesson, Lord willing to edify through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Yahweh Shai. All right, and if you haven't heard, you have the Trump administration in talks of trying to suspend habeas corpus. All right, because ultimately, we know that these devils are about to bring that order out of chaos. And that's one thing that these elites need to ultimately to bring in this new world order is to allow absolute chaos to ensue. He wants people to rise up in a seditious manner. He wants to see, you see he's been promoting lately, this intensified race riots between so-called Negroes and so-called white people, blacks against the cops. So you're going to start seeing more things like that being done, where they're going to stoke the flames of racial tension in a society. You already have division amongst, Republicans and Democrats, and they want to see more of this because ultimately, we know that, Jacob's trouble is about to take place. And we know that, these devils are about to allow particular things to happen so they can be justified and, suspending habeas corpus, which will basically can deem every citizen here an enemy of the state or can be a person of interest. And they really can give these elites the opportunity to come at, those that are opposing or those that are exposing, and ultimately another way for them to come up against the men and the prophets of Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai. They just need the right crisis and the right situation to, to unlawfully, silence those that are, basically, a lot of these truthers, a lot of people that are exposing the bullshit and the corruption of this, of the powers that be. And we know ultimately it's going to be a way for them to be able to justify and grabbing up the prophets and the men of the Lord. And basically, putting so much fear on the people to where, if there's martial law, if he has to, suspend the Constitution, like I said, that can deem anybody to be an enemy and anybody to be grabbed up or thrown in prison indefinitely without the right to have a court case or to defend yourself. But if they deem you to be, seditious or in question, hey, they'll just be green lighted and grabbing up any fucking body they want to. And we know basically there's particular people that they want to, silence and, do away with. And this would be a great way to do it. So I want to read this on AI mode. It says, what happens if habeas corpus is suspended? You see? And it says the suspension of habeas corpus would have significant consequences for individuals and the legal system, you see. And like I said, and this can be a way that the government can be, justified and, locking up whoever the hell they want to lock up. You won't have a right to a court case. You're not going to have the right to defend yourself. Hey, whoever they deem to be gathered and locked up and thrown away, you can be locked up and thrown away. And this has happened several times in American history. I think 1862 with Lincoln and to a lot of those Japanese Americans during the time of Pearl Harbor. A lot of them were a lot of their right to habeas corpus was suspended and they were thrown into concentration camps indefinitely, And we know that these devils are looking to have this happen again. So it says, here's a breakdown of what could happen. 1, indefinite detention. Individuals could be detained without being formally charged with a crime. This could lead to prolonged detention without legal justification or the opportunity to challenge their detention in court. And we know this is something that these elites want. And this is why you hear Trump talking about opening back up Alcatraz prison. When he was meeting with the president of El Salvador, he was telling him, you need to build more prisons, like 5 or 6, because we know that, these devils are looking to lock up a lot of you so-called violent criminals here in America. Trump has made that crystal clear that he wants to lock up and imprison a lot of these dangerous American citizens who are out here who are professional criminals, thieves, robbers, violent criminals, violent offenders, and anybody in the society that is causing, havoc upon this society. He wants them locked away indefinitely, man. So we can see why, Trump and his administration is talking about suspending this, man, because it basically gives them the right to, to get active, man. It says individuals could be detained without being formally charged with the crime. And like I said, and this is going to be another way for them to, silence their critics, silence anybody that is exposing things that don't want to be exposed, and ultimately to come up against the prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Because ultimately what we're out there doing is just speaking the truth. We're not committing any crimes, but hey, if they suspend habeas corpus, our crime would be prophesying, teaching the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and having a message that is against the status quo, and against all of this wickedness, and against ultimately everything that Esau Edom stands for. All right. It says this could lead to prolonged detention without legal justification or the opportunity to challenge their detention in court. Number 2, lack of due process. The right to challenge the legality of detention in court would be removed. You see, you're through out here. You're cooked, and they'll be totally justified in doing all of this shit, man. You see, and this is why. Let me get this real fast. All right. It's Ephesians 5 and 15. It says, see then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. Right. It says why? Redeeming the time because the days are evil. And as we can see, by them trying to suspend habeas corpus, hey, that will make everything that you do, everything that you do and everything that you're posting on social media, everything that we're out there speaking on the highways and the byways, it will make doing those things very, very dangerous, man. You see? And just being in this society in general would be very dangerous, because for any little thing, they can just lock you up without even having to tell you why, man. Talk about, you can be racially profiled, man. Jake can just look at you and since because you're black, Jake, Esau can just lock you up because they might just suspect you might be up to no good. Hey, they'll have the green light to just grab you up and throw you into prison and detain you. This is why they're vastly militarizing the local police force. Trump signed executive orders to bolster that. Now he's talking about hiring 20 to 30,000 more ICE officers. I just did a lesson where now they're putting a lot of ankle bracelets and wrist monitoring technology on a lot of these migrants so that they can be monitored more closely and tracked. And if they take off their ankle bracelets or if they take off that wristband, hey, that could be seen to be an illegal and as a crime. So therefore, hey, they could be detained and locked up. So, they're getting ready to try to make things more strict and more draconian here in this society. So we got to make sure that we're walking as wise as possible, man. Make sure that when you're out there on the highways and the byways, while it's still legal to move circumspectly, not be out there trying to incite riots and, harassing the people as they're walking by, or, just saying things that could cause the ministry to be blamed. You got to be very wise and very, calculated to how you're moving, especially in these times, man, because these devils are trying to put laws into place to where, hey, man, at any moment, at any given time, man, you could be snatched up and locked up. All right. Verse 17, it says, wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is, and be not drunk with wine wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit. All right. So, hey, man, we need to be out here circumspectly, and moving wisely more than ever, especially if they, be able to let this become something that they want to do, which we know it is going to happen. It tells you in 2 Ezra, the 15th and the 16th chapter that, there is going to be sedition. There is going to be invading of one another for the lack of bread. We know that these harsh and crazy times are coming to where, habeas corpus will have to be suspended, where it's going to be a martial law type scenario where they are going to have the military and robots and drones out here monitoring and, moving about the cities and hoods and ghettos and states of America, and where, a lot of people are going to be detained and locked up. And, Lord, no, also too, Trump even said he's even willing Remember, if they get this passed, Trump said that he's willing to bring back the firing squad. You see? And what better way, because eventually, once they start locking up so many people, it will just make sense for them to just, instead of, housing all of these prisoners and all these, so-called homeborn enemies of this country, it'll be just better to just put them before a firing squad and just get rid of them. Remember, they still have that depopulation agenda as well. And this could be a way for them to be able to, execute a lot of that. All right, back here, it says this undermines fundamental legal protections and the right to a fair trial. Vert number 3, potential for abuse. The power to detain without legal review could be abused to suppress dissent or silence political opponents. You see? So this is a very broad thing that they can use to, to do a lot of damage to the average person, and basically to put so much fear into the people that they'll be willing to just obey and just do whatever the hell they're told to do, even to take that micro C-hip. If you want to be if you want to be looked at as a more productive member of society, you'll be willing to give up more of your rights, to be surveilled, to be monitored, to be tracked, traced, and a micro C-hipped for your safety, It says there is an increased risk of individuals being detained indefinitely or for arbitrary reasons. It was one of those speaking out there on the highways and the byways, man. Number 4, legal challenges. Any attempt to suspend habeas corpus would likely be met with legal challenges and judicial scrutiny. Courts would need to determine if the constitutional conditions for suspension have been met, rebellion or invasion endangering public safety, and if the suspension was applied correctly. Right. So, as long as they can get enough chaos and hell to break loose, hey, they'll be, justified. 5, historical context. Habeas corpus has been suspended only a few times in U.S. history, primarily during times of war or rebellion. See? It says these suspensions were often controversial and raised concerns about government overreach. Well, that's what it's all about, overreach, so that they can have more control. It says, in essence, the suspension of habeas corpus removes a crucial check on government power and significantly reduces individual liberties, potentially leading to arbitrary detention and abuse of power. You see? And then here we go. 1862 was when they suspended habeas corpus. All right. What else? A spotlight on Abraham Lincoln, the order. Let's see what this says. So it has been done before, It says the suspension of habeas corpus was one of Lincoln's most controversial decisions. In the spring of 1863, General Ambrose Burnside arrested Peace Democrats Clement Vallandigham, who had been critical of the U.S. government, and banned publication of the Chicago Times, which was supportive of Vallandigham. Burnside's action drew widespread criticism, to which Lincoln responded by reducing Vallandigham's sentence and revoking Burnside's order suppressing the Times. Let me see something. Let's go up here. Proclamation on the suspension of habeas corpus in 1862. All right. It says the U.S. Constitution specifically protects this right in Article 1, Section 9. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. See, so why not create enough chaos and let enough hell break loose to where, it can legally be suspended, which will give, like I said, the government all the power that I was reading about. It says the privilege of, it says Lincoln initially suspended habeas corpus in the volatile border state of Maryland in 1861 in order to try large numbers of civilian rioters and military courts and to prevent the movement of Confederate troops on Washington. The order was eventually extended in response to different threats. In the summer of 1862, President Lincoln had called up the state militias, leading to increased opposition to the Civil War within the Union. By General Orders Number 141, September 25, 1862, Lincoln subjected protesters to martial law and the suspension of habeas corpus. See? So with enough chaos and enough hell breaking loose, they could implement the suspension of habeas corpus, which will give these devils the green light to totally, lock up whoever the hell they want to lock up, man. You see, Trump administration threat to suspend core U.S. legal rights sparks outcry. You see, so Trump is totally for this. He's not against this. And he would love to have something like this to use it at his disposal, man. You know, he can lock up a lot of naysayers and a lot of people that are bucking up against, you know, the things that he wants to do. And we know this man has the pride and the ego to definitely do this if he feels that it was very necessary, man. So like I said, man, you got to be moving very circumspectly, and especially in these times, man, because why? The days are evil. The days are very evil. This is Revelation chapter 2, verse 10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison. This further shows you that the devil ain't some entity in the middle of the earth with a goatee and a pitchfork and a pointed tail. It's showing you that the devil or the deceiver or the wicked one is Esau Edom. Because why? If he can suspend habeas corpus, who the hell you think is going to be locking you into prison? It ain't going to be Satan coming out of the middle of the earth locking you in jail. It's going to be this government, the military, these militias, or whoever they're going to hire to carry out, you know, these you being locked into prison. It says, behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison that ye may be tried, or what? Tested, you know? They're going to try to lock you up to get you to denounce Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. You know, they might threaten you with deportation to one of these South American high, prisons, or Alcatraz or Guantanamo Bay. Or, like Trump said, if he gets his way, hey, he'll bring firing squads back into, back into this society. You see? And it's going to be a trial and a test of our faith if we are caught up in one of these situations. But hey, we know it's all for prophecy's sake. It says, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days, be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. And some of us might be locked up, but hey, we got, the instances in the scriptures where our forefathers and the apostles were cast into prison for, preaching and teaching this gospel. But guess what? Hey, they were delivered out of those prisons by angels. So, hey, we got to expect divine intervention even in these times, even in situations as if we are locked in one of these prisons. Hey, it tells you that when the apostles got locked into prison, that, they were there amongst all those prisoners and they started to pray. They were further showing their faith in those prisons. And get what happened? The earthquake came, and it broke them out of the prison. Hey, and that caused certain men that was there that witnessed this and saw it to believe. You see? So, hey, there's nothing that, is out of the hands of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, but it's going to take us having faith in these times to believe that we can be delivered out of it. Because ultimately, if we are locked into the prisons, and we're charged with ultimately, preaching this gospel, man, hey, those are false accusations and ultimately wicked charges. And you don't think Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai doesn't have the power to free us if we are put in this situation? But it's going to require, faith. Like it says, be faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. And even if you do got to get your head chopped off or brought before a firing squad, you're still going to be, receive that crown of life and immortality from Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, man. You're still going to be rewarded. Your works will still follow you. So it's a win-win situation all around for the elect, okay? So let me get this in Matthew 5:25. It says, agree with thine adversary quickly whilst thou art in the way with him. Right. So, like I said, even in these times, man, we got to be circumspect and wise, hey, if we're out there preaching and, the cops roll up, Esau roll up, hey, man, just comply. If he tells you, look, man, yeah, I understand what you guys are doing, I just need you to leave. Hey, just leave. Don't try to pull out scriptures and try to cut the devil or be unwise in these times, man, because something like that can cause, this ministry to be blamed, and it can really put you in a worse situation than it needed to be. If you had just, applied wisdom and knowledge, man. It says, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. You see? And like I said, yeah, some of us are going to be thrown into prison, but you don't want to, make the situation worse when you could have avoided, being even put in that situation, So we just got to be wise and be circumspect and understand that, look, man, this devil was getting ready to come down with that great wrath, seeing that he has but a short time, man. All right. So, hey, man, we see what this is, what this is all about, and what, a suspension of this habeas corpus entails. And like I said, we know it's going to be as far as to fulfill prophecy. But hey, it's our job to blow the trumpet and to give Jake warning out there of what these devils are trying to do. Hey, and eventually they are going to do this because prophecy says so. Like I said, read 2 Ezra 15 or the 16th chapter, where it tells you how it's going to be sedition among men, and the cities are going to be, going to try to go to one city, but you won't be able because of man pride. The city shall be locked down, and people's power is going to stand in their own hands. And it's going to be all hell and all chaos breaking out here in this society. This is why something like this is definitely going to be implemented pretty soon. Can't give you a date and a time, but we know prophetically it is in the works. So I'm gonna close it there. All right, Lord willing, you were edified. Lord willing, you understand what the suspension of habeas corpus entails and what type of power is going to give the powers that be in those days and in those times, and how it's going to lead to more persecution of the prophets and of the men of the Lord, and mainly all of you Israelites out there. But Lord willing, we're of the elect. Hey, we'll be delivered. We'll be fully, faithful in these times, and may divine intervention and, help for the elect, man, be implemented and given in these times that are ahead. So with that, I'm going to close it there. All praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai. Lord willing, you are edified. Shalom.